Well, joining me now is someone who's been a fighter for liberty in various forms. He's the founder of Black Guns Matter, which trains people in proper firearm handling. We have with us Maj Toure. How you doing, sir?
Hey, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great having you back on the show.
Same here. Good to be here. A lot of people are not here right now.
Yeah, where are you at?
I am in Philadelphia. I am in the middle of, I just got here. I am in the middle of running around, but I knew I wanted to reach out and do this call because I think that this conversation about liberty, freedom, and all of these other different historic and consistent constitutional means needs to be had. So happy to be here.
Well, Maj, I wanted to ask you real quick. I don't think I've asked you this before. Why are they doing this whole thing about we've got to eat roaches? I've seen so many people, whether it's Nicole Kidman or these late-night hosts, they're trying to normalize eating crickets and slugs and worms crawling in your mouth. Why do they want us to eat worms so much?
They want us to eat worms because there is a globalist agenda. The reality is Alex Jones was correct for some time now. And to, you know, I don't know how familiar the listeners are with the movie Transformers. And it was one of the movies in the Transformers where there were, people that were cooperating and collaborators with the Decepticons. And the Decepticons had their own agenda. A lot of our so-called public servants fit that agenda. And so they're pushing us towards this globalization, which means more than ever, we need to tap into our individual rights, our sovereignty, and our nationalism in a positive way. And I say in a positive way because leftist media will package it as if you say, I am about America, I am an American, I am going to identify with the community that I live in, I'm going to try to individually and collectively benefit that community, somehow you're the villain. And the reason why they want to package you as the villain is because you are a threat to the global agenda in that regard. We cannot have a bunch of hardcore, freedom-loving, liberty-leaning Americans identifying as American people. That does not jive with what we want you to merge with over there in communist China. So that's the reason why they want us to eat worms, accept less and less and less to their benefit and to the American people's detriment.
So they want to basically break our will and make us eat like their pets. Like I was saying earlier, they want us to eat on the same level as a frog or an iguana, in your pet terrarium.
Absolutely. The bare minimum. We just want you to own nothing and be happy about it. And that's not the case. If we work hard, this nation was founded on life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and property. That's the part that gets left out of the conversation a lot. And so they want you to participate in it that way. We will not go along with that. That is not the way that we are raised. That is not what's beneficial for individual rights and sovereignty. And it's also not the way of our people for the last few hundred years.
You were talking about how they like to divide people. I noticed the New York Times did a news story called The Rise of the Far-Right Latina. Now they're trying to say that the Latinas, the far-right Latinas, are the new extremists we need to be scared about because of this rise in people in Texas and Florida, people being elected who are Republican Latinas who are very big on bringing our troops home and protecting our border. Why is it that they're always trying to ostracize people who go outside of the narrow script they're supposed to submit to?
If I'm the lone evil villain, if there's 10 people in a room and me as the one person, 10% out of the 10, I have to do things to make sure that those other 9 people are not working in cohesion. I have to make them hate each other. I have to make the old hate the young, the light hate the dark, the fat versus the thin, so forth and so on, the male versus the female, because as everyone's fighting, I maintain a lion's share of the power. That's their plan. It's the oldest plan in the book. It's the Tower of Babel. We don't want people communicating and understanding each other. We want people babbling across each other. And that's their playbook. It's the oldest play in the playbook. But that's the reason, and it's necessary to, promote and push this, now they're calling it the liberal world order or the so-called new world order. You know, these are the things that have to happen in order to divide and conquer. You can't have black people, brown people, white people, Asian people, all the people that identify under the flag of it as an American, with our contradictions. Our nation has an ugly history on certain levels. But at the same time, we have to do things, if I'm the supervillain, to make sure that that cohesion, that unity, and that togetherness is not there, because it's beneficial for me as the 10% in comparison to the remaining 90%. And the listeners need to remember that consistently. This is a game of divide and conquer to maintain the lion's share of power and resources to keep the majority subjugated. That is the goal. That is the outcome. If we are not vigilant on our staff and recognizing the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the human rights to defend and keep a system of checks and balances on all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Right. And I wish more people would wake up to the fact that this multiculturalism does not care about any of the identity groups that it claims to have a monopoly on. I mean, you can see it. I've pointed out how Clarence Thomas, when he had his victories and he was steamrolling a lot of the lawless rulings that have been established in this country, all these white liberals and black liberals and whatever were going on Twitter saying the most disgusting stuff, posting his address, threatening his life, calling him the worst racial terms in the book. And meanwhile, Kanye West gets banned on Instagram when he makes one comment about Trevor Noah. It's a total power play where they're saying, you know, if you go off script, your protection goes out the window, and we're going to make an example out of you. We're going to continue this with Maj Toure, our guest, on the other side after these short messages. Stay tuned. I'm your host, David Gornoski, here with Maj Toure. And so, Maj, I just want to get your take. Why is it that Kanye West gets banned on Instagram if he takes one shot at Trevor Noah, who's an unfunny guy running The Daily Show, and then you've got Clarence Thomas, people are posting his address, they're threatening violent, horrible racial things, and Twitter just lets it go wild, and they say, go for it, go for it. Why is that?
Because we have to make sure that you are demoralized in your want for freedom and liberty. If you question this narrative, we, as the evil entity, need to make sure that you understand that this cannot fly. That's the reason for those scenarios. Thank you. That's the reason for that. That's the same reason why we have to make sure that Clarence Thomas is packaged as some sellout when he's in essence saying, hey, the federal government does not have the right to determine a thing. Each individual has those rights to themselves. That moral conundrum in conversation is a different thing, more than what the government should have an involvement in. But because the general public is not aware of this, we want to keep that spell going from the general public. And that's why we have to have all influential people not addressed. That's the reason why the Breakfast Club or certain platforms, even some seemingly right-leaning platforms, won't have Maj Toure on it. We won't have him on there because he's damaging to our narrative. He's damaging, forget the money. We can't control these people with money. Either they already have money or they don't care about our money. We want power and control and to manipulate the masses. A conversation, a genuine conversation, respectful, civil dialogue based on facts and understanding can change the minds of the masses. We, as the elite, so-called elite, which aren't really elite, we cannot allow that to happen. So we have to consistently come up with ways to manipulate the masses. And when we have someone that has the ear or the heart or the voice or they're listening to this person, we have to continue to make that person seem as if they're wrong. It's the most beautiful PR job that I've ever seen. And it's consistent, but the American people are waking up. They see it. They see how horrible the Biden administration has been, is going to continue to be until they're out of there. And even the American people that may seemingly identify as the left are questioning this. Because this conversation isn't just about we're going to be okay with you if you're on the left and hate you if you're on the right. This conversation is about we want total control and domination, and some people on the left are now starting to see that, hey, even though I did the right thing, even though I played along, they're still not handling me the way that I think they should, and the people are growing tired of it. Ray Charles can see it, and the people are seeing, and they're waking up.
Yeah, I mean, J.K. Rowling normalized witchcraft for little kids for billions of people, and they still don't like her when she doesn't update her holiness codes to the latest level, right? I mean, that's the way they do. You're constantly having to completely change your language to keep up with the latest kind of 5.0, 6.0, whatever the new version of leftist holiness is. You've got to stay on board or you will be devoured by this permanent revolution that they always have, right?
It's not permanent. It's their form of permanence. Tyrants always fall in world history. Even, as a black man in America, my ancestors were participated or forced to participate in captivity. And that lasted for some time. Now, let's be clear. All black people, indigenous people, were not brought here as so-called captives or so-called slaves. However, for some of our ancestors, that was a reality. And that was tyrannical. And that was for a long time. But that ended. All tyrants always fall. They think that they'll be forever, but they absolutely will not be. So they have to continue to package it as if they're undefeatable. But the reality is, if they were actually undefeatable or they were actually all powerful, there would not be the need to suppress speech. There would not be the need to suppress actions. There would not be a need to silence a Kanye West. There would not be a need to do that if you actually were superior. They are presenting as superior, but in reality, they have a very inferior positioning, limited information. The history, data, and facts are not on their side, so they have to consistently spin the narrative to fit their agenda. And it's, again, I can't stress this enough. The American people, humanity, is waking up.
I noticed you were at the Libertarian Party event in Reno with Ron Paul and Dave Smith. And I know you also are friends with folks like Thomas Massey in the Republican Party. Now that the Libertarian Party is moving in a different direction, closer to Ron Paul and that kind of populism energy, do you see your work best suited for Republican politics or Libertarian politics or something else?
I think that the current structure of libertarian ideology and libertarianism, every American should look into libertarianism. They should look into the Libertarian National Party under this new leadership. They should look into the Libertarian Mises Caucus. They should look into Ludwig von Mises. They should look into Rothbard. They should look into Austrian economics. They should look into not being war hawks. Most Americans will agree, hey, we shouldn't go to war unless there's a potential threat on us. We shouldn't be going and spending a bunch of money in Ukraine where there's no threat to us. And in reality, these are wars by proxy. These are not legitimate wars, okay? We should be focusing on the Constitution as a structure, and we should be making sure that we are in alignment with the human right to exist. That is a libertarian ideology. The conservative movement, there are some overlap. There's overlaps. But we as libertarians don't want extreme levels of more government and control. We don't want more state. We want limited government, very limited government. I think that somewhere the conservatives and Republicans have lost their way. I think that the first 13 black senators in America were Republican. I think that they came out of the same conditions that the Libertarian Party, which is now the third largest political party in America, came out of those same efforts. There was a monopoly, and now it's a duopoly. They're lost their way because they're making the focus corporatocracies as well as expansion of the militarization of the police state. Libertarians do not believe that, and we actually reject it. So I think that the libertarian ideology is absolutely the way to freedom and to save our republic. But at the same time, under that big tent that we are as libertarians, that the GOP used to be or now pretends to be. I think there's room for respect for areas where there is overlap without attacking each other on the so-called right. There's a way to say, hey, I have libertarian ideologies, and these are the areas that mesh well with your Republican or conservative values. Let's work together on this. Or these are the areas that mesh well with your independent values. Let's work together here. The reality is the Democrats are the powerhouse. We need to make sure that we're working with anyone that is understanding of individual rights, respect for the Constitution and the human right as codified in those Bill of Rights and Constitution, as well as a strong understanding of the civic process. This is how we will save our republic. If that happens to fall under the banner for some issues around libertarianism, if it happens to fall under the banner of independent thought, if it happens to fall under the banner of we're working with conservatives or Republicans, hell, even Democrats. I know friends that are Democrats that are pro-gun. We have to figure out the areas that we can work together to strengthen and save our republic, regardless of the parties that are attached on specific issues one at a time. I may disagree with my libertarian brothers and sisters on certain key issues, and I may find more solace with a conservative or a Republican in that issue. We work together on those issues to benefit the nation as a whole, and we let the chips fall where they may. But the reality is we have to put a lot of work, sit down, and we have to put our egos down as well to save our republic. That is the overall goal, and whichever flag we have to fly, the reality is we are all humans and we are all Americans under that flag.
So recently the Supreme Court has had a big win for concealed carry. How has that changed your work as a firearms instructor and trainer for folks who are interested in safe use of guns?
It's created a space where there was none in certain states and cities, boroughs, that have been extremely disrespectful to our Second Amendment rights. It has opened up a vast amount of people that are openly saying, I want training, now that the supreme law of the land is you can carry a firearm anywhere on your person. That is the supreme law of these lands. We all knew it as gun owners because the Second Amendment is clear. But when the Supreme Court doubled down on that decision a few weeks ago, that created a space where people, the great people in New York, and I mean the people, I don't mean the bureaucrats, the people in the state of New York, the people in the state of New Jersey, the people in the state of Massachusetts, the people in the state of California are now have a renewed hope and vigor and interest in concealed carry. Not only for our work at Black Guns Matter, but the work for any firearms instructor that wants to educate people on how to be safe and responsible firearms owners as they move about with firearms across this great nation.
So business is going to be booming for you now. Apparently, you're going to be having
business is going to be a headache, but we're going to call that one of them good problems.
Yeah. Are you planning to do it? I know you do Solutionary summits in Florida. Do you have one coming up here? A lot of our audience is in Florida.
So we have the Solutionary Center that we opened in Philadelphia, where we give all classes on firearm safety training, conflict resolution, so forth and so on, as well as classes on phlebotomy, sewing, Spanish, welding, just everything that improves the local community. We have that at the Solutionary Center. We are going to start taking those things on the road. These classes are completely free to all. We are able to do that because of voluntary donations by everyone. So if you're listening to this, please, please, please take a moment. If you agree with what I'm saying, vote with your dollar. Go to givesendgo.com/solutionary. Donate $100, $10, $1,000, $10,000, $1 million, whatever your financial space will allow you to, and we can pay it forward to create this model in Philadelphia and then make it scalable. We need these in every major city across the United States of America.
Well, very good, sir. Thanks for your time, Maj Toure. Thanks for joining us.